What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. For most men, when we are young, single, and still outside in the streets, we just want to have fun. A lot of us try to get all the lust out of our system, get our rocks off as much as we can before we even think about jumping into a relationship. For some, it might be because they are in their prime. They just want to enjoy themselves with no strings attached. For others, they might just feel they haven't met a woman who can keep their attention. That's why it's so common to know men 40 plus who never even thought about marriage or even been in a committed serious relationship. It's because they have been on the scene so long, they are traumatized, knowing they have smashed other dudes' wives, girlfriends, and their trust level is zero. They feel like if they cuff something, the same thing will happen to them. Free game, ladies. You can be a 10, the baddest around. But if you are too friendly with other men or always outside, you can be as loyal as they come. But in a man's eyes, you are not to be trusted. They will take a quiet 5 that stays to herself and doesn't have male friends. But every now and again, you will find a young man and woman trying to be traditional, be in a committed relationship with goals to get married. But just because you respect the relationship and each other doesn't mean others will. Every man, whether they admit it or not, has had a simp or tender moment. Whether we address our girl's co-worker for always trying to be in her face, or she stays out a little too late with friends and you look through their phone. Because when we are young, we know it's vicious out here. And your girl to the next man is free game. And that male ego can lead to some crazy situations. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it right outside of New Orleans to Slidell, Louisiana, to discuss the case of a man who texted his co-worker's girl, and after that, it turned fatal. Back in 2022, 22-year-old Zachary Stewart was trying to navigate life and get on his feet. Originally from Alabama, he came from a big, tight-knit family, in which Zachary learned early on about responsibility, hard work, even seeing the union between his parents who were married, the pros and cons of being in a committed relationship. After high school, where he graduated from Coleman High, he went straight to work. Years later, just saying what his next move would be, he found a good job at a car dealership in Slidell, Louisiana. Zachary had friends out there and moved in with a few of them. In the mix, he found the young lady he was into, who we will call Jessica for the sake of the story. The two dated for a minute before they decided to make it official. Now Zachary was setting his future. Good job, looking for a place, his girl on his side. He was in a good space in life. At the Hyundai dealership where he worked was another man and co-worker, 23-year-old Brian Taylor. Brian was described as a pretty hard worker who mostly got along with everybody. He didn't mind conversation and seemed like a cool dude. Him and Zachary were cordial, as co-workers usually are, but not really friends. It's not clear how, if Jessica worked at the dealership, or if Brian already knew her or was familiar with the young lady. But he was familiar enough to have her phone number. He knew she was in a relationship with Zachary, but as most men do, he often tried his hand anyway, shooting her texts saying if the relationship was solid or if she was still willing to go. At first, she ignored the messages, but soon Zachary found out Brian was texting his girl. In September of that year, the two men continued going to work daily, but Zachary approached Brian like, bro, you being disrespectful by texting my girl. You need to fall back. Brian just smirked. he brushed Zachary off. As days went by, tension between the two men grew. They were sizing each other up, and Brian still was texting Jessica. Now, she was letting Zach know he wouldn't stop contacting her. On September 16th, 2022, both men were at work when Zach told Brian, "It's going to be a problem if you text my girl one more time." Feeling like Zach was trying him, Brian's ego got the best of him, and he pushed Zach from behind, basically telling him to do something about it. That's when the two men started fighting, throwing hands. As co-workers tried to break it up, the damage was already done. Both men were leaking, bleeding from their mouths and noses, and Brian was furious. He walked over to his work bay and grabbed his gun. He ran back up on Zach, but Zach, being a southern boy, he wasn't scared of no gun and still was willing to fight. As a few more punches were thrown, Brian upped his gun as co-workers yelled out and yelled his name, told him like, "Nah, bro, don't do it." A shot went off, and Brian ran out the building. Co-workers called local police, who responded to the dealership to find Zachary suffering from a gunshot wound to the chest, and unfortunately, he would be pronounced gone at the scene. As police got the story from co-workers about what happened, they wouldn't just have to go off word of mouth. Cameras in the building caught the whole altercation, and there was no doubt Brian shot Zach. He was eventually tracked down to a nearby neighborhood, taken into custody, and because it was a fight, charged with manslaughter and not first-degree hit. Zach's family back home in Alabama were devastated and felt the situation was petty and didn't even have to go that far. As the case made its way to trial, Brian's attorney was going for the self-defense claim, basically saying Zach was mad about his girlfriend and wanted to fight, but Brian had his weapon on him and shot. But prosecutors fought back, showing video that Brian initiated the fight by pushing Zach from behind, stating the aggressor can't claim self-defense, even pointing to the fact the fist fight was over when Brian ran and got his gun, came back with a look on his face that they described as rage, with a few co-workers also testifying that the two had been having words over Brian texting Zach's girl for over a week. It wasn't much Brian's attorney could do. In the end, he was found guilty on manslaughter and was facing the max of 40 years and a minimum of 20 years in prison. It's not clear how much time Brian received, but he is currently serving his time in a Louisiana state prison. Rest in peace to Zachary. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. I'm not sure how Brian got Shorty's number. Maybe she worked at the dealership or they knew each other before Zach moved to town. Yeah, Brian was dead wrong for texting a young lady, knowing she had a man. But like I said earlier, another man doesn't feel like he owes you any loyalty. Your girl does. But if she shows any interest, even a text back, dudes will take that as an open invitation. Zach lost his life. I'ma say not over his girl, but some men feel like it's all about the respect. And with the male ego, a lot of times they can't tolerate that. She wasn't his wife, and he was young. It's no telling if they still would be together or not. And now he is gone. Brian threw his life away over nothing. I'm sure it was a lot of women in that town, but you locked in on bro girl. But I want to end this one with a question. Have you yourself ever been in a similar situation where you felt disrespected, somebody was texting or trying your significant other? If so, how did you deal with it? Let me know in the comments. And remember, we got to succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, it's a crazy story. Rest in peace to that young man. I definitely send my prayers to his family. But I ain't going to talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. It's another episode of Hood Tales. It's your boy Tony 2 times. What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story and all the details in the case. Everything in this is alleged. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Tap that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. When most people feel like they have found their person, they go all in. In the beginning, the love is strong. Y'all lay and talk all night, go on dates, plan for the future. It feels like you want this forever. As time goes on, some choose to take things to another level, whether making a lifelong commitment of marriage or deciding to have a child together, which is also a lifetime commitment. For some, their child brings them closer together. They both realize they have a little person to take care of. They lock in and try to make things work and be a family. But minus all the gender reveals and baby showers, for a lot of couples, everything is not always what it seems. And everything that glitters isn't gold. For men, I hear a lot of the times them say the woman changed when they had their child, turned into their enemy. And if the relationship doesn't work out, they use the baby against them. With women, they always say their baby fathers get super controlling and possessive and feel like they own them once they have their child. We all know that's not all couples. Some understand no matter what, even if we both move on, it's all about their child. And they do good with co-parenting. But for others, to them, breaking up, knowing I have a child with you, it's all about control and get back. They think, what can I do to mess your life up? Which is crazy when you think about it. Because if your child's other parent is not straight, you are really hurting your child. Then you have the new man or woman that chooses to take on somebody with kids. And depending who they have a child by, things can go left real fast. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to Chicago, Illinois to discuss the case of a man who came home from jail and took his baby mother's new boyfriend's life. Back in 2019, 24-year-old Ed Rush was trying hard to navigate life in Chicago. Ed was trying to stay out the way and be a father, as he had a child with a young lady who we'll call Shay for the sake of the story. The two were in a committed relationship, but Ed seemed to keep getting caught up in the Chicago streets. Things would go left when he got jammed up for a gun. When police tried to arrest the man, he allegedly started fighting with them, leaving him with the gun charge and battery on the officer. He sat in Cook County Jail for a minute, but when he went in front of a judge, he would catch a break and get sent home on a box. He was living by University Village and trying to stay low, at least till he got off the tracker, not being able to leave the house. Shay had to come visit him. At that point, their relationship had fizzled out a little bit. They were co-parenting still though. But once Ed found out she was in a new relationship with a 20-year-old man named Ravion Hutchins, he became furious. Allegedly, he started yoking Shay up, putting hands on her and often making threats, to the point she got a protective order against her baby father. According to sources, Ravion, nicknamed Huncho by family and friends, was a laid-back young man, a cool little dude just trying to find his way. It's not clear if him and Ed knew each other prior, but now he was on Ed's radar for dating his baby mother. On a cold night, November 22nd, 2019, Ravion was around the corner from where Ed was living at, in the 1200 block of South Troop. He was standing outside of his car when someone approached and multiple shots went off. Witnesses called CPD, who responded to the scene, but Ravion was hit in the back, head, and side, and unfortunately, he wouldn't survive his injuries. As an investigation started, police focused on cameras in the area. One camera caught a man leaving a nearby home right before the hit and returning to the home just 2 minutes later. 3 days after the shooting, police got a search warrant for that same home. Inside, they found the gun and a jacket that matched the one witnesses on the scene claimed the gunman was wearing. Police took the items in for testing. They determined the jacket had gunshot residue on it, and the gun was the same one used to take Ravion's life. Police determined the man who lived at the residence was Ed, and his home monitoring records showed he had left the house for the same amount of time the video showed the suspect did the night of the shooting. He was eventually picked up taken into custody, charged with first-degree hit. The case, despite all the evidence, would take a minute to go to court. But by 2025, people were taking a stand. The woman who owned the gun used in the hit testified she kept the weapon at Ed's house because she had kids of her own and didn't want to put them in harm's way. Shay also took the stand, testifying about their relationship. She stated it had ended, but Ed became aggressive. He didn't want to see her with nobody else and would often make threats and put hands on her, so she got a protective order. As the jury sat and listened to the prosecutor point to the fact Ed was already on a box, he was facing charges, wasn't even supposed to be in possession of a gun. They alleged when he got word Ravion was around the corner, he let his feelings get the best of him and went and took the young man's life. With testimonies, video, the hit weapon, and other evidence, it wasn't much fighting Ed's lawyer could do. The jury found the man guilty of all charges, and he was sentenced to 50 years in prison. Rest in peace to Ravion. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. It's always tough when somebody loses their life for nothing, simply doing what young men do, dating a young lady. It's wild, in my opinion, for a man to focus in on another man because he is with your ex or baby mother. You can always keep it player. Take care of your child, get on your grind, even if you move on. Eventually, trust me, you probably won't even miss or think about that relationship no more because feelings fade and time heals. Then y'all can just co-parent. And if later down the line, y'all do decide to get back together, at least nobody got hurt. But crashing out, leaving your kid out here alone, sitting in a cell for 50 years while your BM or girl moves on is never the move. But I'm going to end this one with a few questions. For anybody out there, man or woman, would you date somebody with kids whose baby father or baby mother is still in the picture? If so, tell me why. If not, tell me why not. Let me know in the comments. And remember, we got to succeed not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, crazy story. Rest in peace, that young man. I definitely send my prayers to his family. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. It's another episode of Hood Tales. It's your boy Tony 2 times.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another episode of Hood Tales. In this video, let's take it right outside of Pittsburgh to McKeesport, Pennsylvania, to tell the story of a sneaky link that resulted in a mother-to-be losing her life. But before we get into this video, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Turn your notifications on so you don't miss any future uploads. Stay tuned until the end to hear the full story. Everything in this video is alleged. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. You know those people who just seem to effortlessly command a room the second they walk into it? Not because they're loud, but because their energy is just that warm? Well, that was Carly St. Short. Born in the summer of 1995, Carly grew up in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, a proud city just outside of Pittsburgh. And to say she was loved by her community is an understatement. From the time she was just 4 years old, she was active, cheering for the White Oak Falcons, hitting the basketball court at the local YMCA, and performing as a majorette. As she grew up, Carly found a real passion for cosmetology. She loved working as a hairstylist and makeup artist because for her, it wasn't just about the aesthetics. She genuinely loved making people feel like the absolute best version of themselves for their big milestones. She was also an incredible cook. Her family still raves about her signature mac and cheese. But the role that truly defined her heart was caregiving. She worked at senior care facilities, channeling her natural kindness into looking after people who needed a helping hand. Her father, Brandon Short, whom some of you might recognize as a former standout linebacker for Penn State and later in the NFL for the Giants and Panthers, called her the absolute light of his life. By the year 2021, Carly was 26 years old, thriving and preparing for her next great chapter. She was expecting her very first child, a baby boy due in February of 2022. She was absolutely over the moon about becoming a mother. But while Carly was looking forward to the future, a hidden dynamic was developing in the background. Let's talk about the man involved in that hidden dynamic, Isaac Christopher Smith. Isaac was 25, a fellow McKeesport High School graduate, a former football player, and was working a stable job at a local bank. To the casual observer, Isaac seemed like a straight-laced stand-up guy. Now, Isaac and Carly knew each other, and they ended up crossing paths and seeing each other romantically. Now, according to reports, it wasn't an official long-term relationship, but they were intimate. Eventually, Carly discovered she was expecting. Believing completely that Isaac was the father, she shared the news with him. And initially, Isaac didn't completely run away from the situation. He actually accompanied her to one of her prenatal doctor's appointments. He allegedly told her that if the baby was his, he would step up and be a father. But here's where the story splits into two entirely different realities. While Carly was openly celebrating her upcoming journey into motherhood, Isaac was keeping a massive secret. He hadn't told a single one of his friends about the pregnancy. Why? Because the walls of a double life were starting to close in on him. Isaac had recently started a serious relationship with a new girlfriend. Things were moving fast. In fact, she had just met his parents. To his new girlfriend and his family, Isaac was the perfect, focused young man. But in reality, he was dating multiple people at the same time, and his past connection with Carly was suddenly threatening to shatter the carefully constructed image he had built. By September, Carly was about 5 months along. On Saturday, September 11th, she reached out to Isaac via text. She asked him for some financial support and, crucially, invited him to an upcoming gender reveal party. For Carly, this was the moment she was ready to publicly announce the father of her baby boy to her family. Her inner circle only knew the father was a guy named Isaac who worked at a bank. They hadn't actually met him yet. For someone trying desperately to keep his worlds separate, that gender reveal invitation meant time was officially running out. Let's look at the timeline of Sunday night, September 12th, 2021. Isaac was staying at his current girlfriend's house. Around 11 p.m., he told her he had to leave for a bit. His excuse? He claimed he was driving over to Homestead to see a friend's brand new puppy. But his cell phone records would later tell an entirely different story. Instead of heading to Homestead, records show his location tracking much closer to home. Carly was staying at a house on 25th Street, watching television into the night with her Uncle Percy. Just past midnight at 12:20 a.m. on Monday, September 13th, Carly's phone rang. It was a call from a track phone, a prepaid burner phone, and the line connected for exactly 1 minute and 20 seconds. Her uncle, who uses a wheelchair, overheard Carly talking to the person on the other end. He distinctly heard her ask, "Are you coming to the front or the back?" Carly then stood up, walked toward the rear of the house. Her uncle heard the home security system chime, announcing that the back door had opened. It was 12:22 a.m. Seconds later, a loud sound echoed through the neighborhood. Her uncle immediately called out Carly's name. He shouted for her 4 times. Silence. Because loud noises weren't entirely uncommon in the area, and because he was unable to easily navigate outside to the backyard to check, he tragically assumed she had simply stepped out to leave with whoever she was meeting in the alley. But Carly never came back inside. Because of the late hour and the assumption that she had left with a friend, no one realized anything was wrong for nearly 10 hours. It wasn't until around 10 a.m. that morning when a pedestrian walking down Furnace Alley right behind the garage of the home made a tragic discovery. Carly's life had been taken from her. She was found still clutching her cell phone inside her pocket. The news sent shockwaves through the community and devastated her family. Her father, Brandon, took to social media to share his profound grief, stating his heart was entirely broken over the loss of his daughter and the grandson he would never get to hold. As Allegheny County homicide detectives moved in to investigate, something highly unusual happened. Just hours after the discovery, Isaac Smith voluntarily walked right into the police department headquarters. He sat down with detectives for a grueling 3-hour interview. His goal? He wanted to completely clear his name. He was calm, cooperative, and highly convincing. He admitted to the intimacy with Carly, reiterated that he was willing to be a father if the child was his, and flatly denied having anything to do with what happened. In fact, one of the detectives would later say, "We totally believed he was telling the truth during that initial interview." Isaac even provided an alibi, claiming he was asleep at his girlfriend's house during the hours in question, and even sent a text to Carly's phone later that morning pretending to just check in. But investigators don't just rely on stories. They rely on digital and physical footprints, and the mountain of evidence they uncovered next completely shattered Isaac's stand-up guy persona. First, detectives executed search warrants for cell phone records and did complete forensic downloads. They discovered that the burner phone used to lure Carly outside at 12:20 a.m. was directly tied to Isaac, despite him claiming he had lost it and never used it. Cell tower data proved that the phone was right near Carly's home when the call was made. Furthermore, home security footage captured a figure matching Isaac's description fleeing from the back door area right before the security chime went off. And remember his alibi about being asleep? Well, his phone record showed continuous text and data activity until nearly 2:00 a.m., long after he claimed to be unconscious. But the most damning piece of evidence came from Isaac's own admission about his belongings. During his talks with police, he mentioned he owned a few firearms, including a Smith & Wesson revolver. He noted that he had actually pawned that specific revolver on September 29th, just over 2 weeks after Carly lost her life. Ballistic experts tracked down that exact firearm from the pawn shop and ran forensic testing. The results were undeniable. The revolver Isaac bought 6 weeks before the incident and pawned 2 weeks after was the exact weapon used to end Carly's life. In November 2021, Isaac was arrested in Pleasant Hills and held without bond, facing 2 counts of first-degree hit, 1 for Carly and 1 for her unborn child. Fast forward through years of legal delays to May of 2026, the trial of Isaac Smith finally gets underway in Allegheny County Common Pleas Court. Although prosecutors initially filed notice to seek the ultimate punishment, they later rescinded it, focusing instead on securing 2 consecutive life sentences for a first-degree conviction. The prosecution's opening argument pointed a harrowing picture of the ultimate consequences of trying to hide a double life. They argued that Isaac carried out a highly pre-planned action because the walls were closing in, and he couldn't handle his new girlfriend and his parents finding out the truth. But on the very first day of the trial, a stunning piece of information was introduced to the jury, a twist that absolutely no one saw coming. Lab test results from just weeks prior were entered into evidence. DNA testing proves that Isaac Smith was not the biological father of Carly's unborn baby boy. Let that sink in for a moment. The defense immediately seized on this, arguing there was absolutely no motive. They claimed Isaac genuinely believed he wasn't the father anyway because they used protection, and that he was a peaceful guy who cherished life. But the prosecution pushed back fiercely with a chilling point. They told the jury at the time the defendant pulled the trigger, he did not have a DNA test in his hand. As far as Isaac knew, Carly was completely convinced he was the father, and she was days away from announcing his name to her entire community at the gender reveal party. In his mind, the threat to his reputation was real, imminent, and absolute. The reality of the DNA didn't matter. It was his perception and his fear of exposure that drove his actions. So now the jury is left sorting through phone data, surveillance footage, witness testimony, ballistic evidence, and years of unanswered questions. And honestly, this case is just sad all around. Isaac Smith is innocent until proven guilty. May Carly Short and her baby boy continue to rest in peace. My condolences to the family. I send them my well wishes. One thing I will say though, Carly's family has worked hard to make sure her name continues to mean something positive. In honor of Carly and her unborn child, her loved ones created the Carly Short Better Tomorrow Scholarship Fund. The scholarship helps students impacted by community trauma and supports young people pursuing education at Penn State Greater Allegheny and Penn State University Park. So even through unimaginable pain, they still chose to pour back into other people. Fam, looking at this entire situation, it leaves us with some heavy things to think about. It's interesting to see how far someone trapped in a web of their own lies might go just to protect an illusion of respectability, if that is the case. What do you think about the prosecution's argument regarding the DNA results? Does the fact that he wasn't the biological father change how you view the motive? Or do you agree that his fear of exposure is what truly dictated that fatal night? And do y'all believe the relationship being kept secret played the biggest role in everything that unfolded? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll keep an eye out how the 2026 trial concludes. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you so much for watching. Consider liking and sharing. Be sure to subscribe for more stories like this. Take care of yourself and each other, and I'll talk to you in the next one.
What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. It's free. It helps get the video out there. Definitely watch this video to the end so you can hear the full story and all the details in the case for my day one fam. Y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. As parents, no matter your situation, what environment we live in, we all want the best for our kids. Even if y'all live in the trenches, you want to give them the same life as a kid growing up in suburban America. But we all know sometimes that can be hard. You can instill everything good in your child, get them the game, but once they leave home and go outside, what they hear or see also has just as much influence on their mind as you do. And nowadays, it's a whole nother level to that, the internet. So even if you keep your child sheltered, busy in activities, they can still look online on their phones and see what other kids are doing all over the world. While we always look at our kids as our babies, around about a certain age, others don't view them as babies at all, especially for boys. We all know it's a culture going on in our community that got people on edge, the YN culture, which people stereotype a certain percentage of black youth that might dress a certain kind of way and carry themselves a certain way and view them as a threat instead of regular kids or teens. And even if you come from a certain environment and you all used to kids carrying themselves like that, their appearance and energy still has a certain stigma to it. You can be from the worst neighborhood in America, but more than likely, if you pull up to a gas station on a late night tip and see a group of teens with shiesties on their face and their hands and their hoodies, you probably will not even chance it and drive off. And unfortunately, that's a reality when you are young. Just trying to be cool and fit in. You don't understand. And while some kids get a chance to live, learn, and grow from certain things, others don't. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we'll be taking it to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., to discuss the case of a man who thought a 13-year-old was trying to rob him, so he took matters into his own hands. Back in 2023, Karan Blake was a 13-year-old boy navigating life in D.C., making the transition from preteen to teen just months prior in October. Karan was described by many as outgoing, a young man who loved his family, school, and like many his age, hanging out with friends. His mother was trying her best to raise him right, fighting against the street culture in a tough city like D.C., where teens jump off the porch early. Only in middle school, Karan tried to stay busy and focused, but like many his age, outside and the older kids had a lot of influence on him. Fresh into the new year, January 6, 2023, Karan would go out and hang with friends. As the young men rode around, some say they were doing things they had no business doing, breaking into cars. As it got late into the night, into the early morning hours of January 7th, they ended up sliding in the 1000 block of Quincy Street in Northeast DC. The teens were checking car doors and some residents claimed to hear glass shatter. It was after 3 a.m. One man got up, grabbed his registered firearm, and went outside. Seconds later, 2 shots went off, and DC police were called to the scene. When they responded to the location, they found Karan suffering from gunshot wounds. He was rushed to a local hospital, but unfortunately, he wouldn't survive his injuries. As police started an investigation, they had to deliver the heartbreaking news to his family, who wanted answers. But police at first wouldn't release any information about the incident or a suspect. Being that Karan was only 13, the community went into an uproar and wanted answers and justice. But police were conducting a thorough investigation, and the suspect was claiming self-defense. As they got footage from cameras on homes in the neighborhood, it showed a few teens tampering with car doors. A man emerged from his home, weapon in hand, confronting the teens before shooting Karan. The suspect at first told police he thought someone was trying to break into his home as he heard glass shatter. He grabbed his gun. He stated when he came out, some of the teens ran back to the car. He claimed they then shot at him. He said he then saw one of the teens running towards him. He stated he thought he had a weapon, so he shot. That teen was Karan. But as police looked harder into the video and also spoke to residents, some only reported hearing 2 gunshots go off, coming from one gun. And in the video, Karan could be heard saying, "Please don't. I'm just a teen. Don't shoot." Police determined it might not be just a clear case of self-defense, but a homicide case. The suspect's name was then released. He was at the time 42-year-old Jason Lewis, a government employee who ironically had been working with the youth in DC's Parks and Recreation Division. He was also a father himself and also a husband as he was married. As the truth of the incident came out, it was mixed feelings from the public. With it now being a fact, Karan and his peers were breaking into cars, but they didn't fire a shot in the confrontation, and there was no evidence neither of them had a gun. It seemed Jason had taken the law into his own hands. After admitting he heard about previous break-ins in the area and was trying to protect his family, he didn't know the young men were just teens. Karan's family was furious, and his grandfather spoke out, saying if he was doing wrong, Jason should have just called the police, not play Superman and react to himself. The teen's mother also spoke out about her pain, losing a child who she said despite what people were saying, she fought hard to raise right and stayed on him about staying out of trouble and out the streets. She stated he was the man of the house, the one who helped her out when she needed it. Now he was gone. A vigil was held for the young man, and the community wanted justice as a lot of people were hurt. But it was still up in the air what Jason would be charged with. As he went in front of a judge, he was charged with second-degree hit, but he stayed on the streets to fight the case. A lot of people felt he was a coward, and he deserved the max punishment. As the case made its way to court, Karan's family filled the courtroom, all pleading for justice. But it wouldn't be open and shut. It seemed Jason's wife, who was supposed to take the stand as a witness and testify, stating how many shots she heard, which would determine if her husband was shooting back in self-defense. But she was MIA. She had disappeared, and nobody knew where she was at. Karan's family members took the stand, not defending the teen's actions, but pointing to the fact Jason didn't even attempt to investigate the situation. Instead, he came out shooting. Jason took the stand in his own defense. He spoke on how he spent years of his life helping and uplifting the youth in DC, but now he felt it was all in vain. He stated he just was trying to protect his own family, and when he saw Karan running towards him, he didn't know he was only 13. He stated he was in shock after the fact. He also wrote a letter to the judge. In the letter, he was apologizing for his actions, showing he was also a father himself, and he didn't just wake up trying to take a life or hurt a family. He also apologized to Karan and his family as well. The judge did agree Jason was in the wrong for taking the law into his own hands, but also understood he was trying to protect his family and that the teens were outside breaking the law. In the end, the second-degree hit charge was dropped, but he was found guilty on the lesser charge of manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 12.5 years in prison. He wanted to get his affairs in order, as his attorney felt he wasn't a flight risk, but Jason was taken into custody right on the spot. Him and his attorney requested he be housed in PC, or protective custody, out of fear for his safety, with the case being so high profile. But the judge stated they had no control over that. The family didn't believe the sentence was enough, but they were happy they got some kind of closure and justice. Rest in peace to Karan. I send my prayers and condolences to his family. 13 is too young to lose your life in such a tragic matter, but a lot of people felt Shorty should have been home in his bed. His mother admitted he was growing up too fast. No matter how hard she tried, he was falling into what a lot of young boys do, the peer pressure of his environment. Jason's stance had a lot of people feeling 50-50. Some understood it was a crime problem in DC, and all men's job is to protect their homes and family. But some felt he should have never left his home if the trouble wasn't at his front door, especially not with a gun, or just called the police. But I want to know y'all thoughts about this situation, fam. Do you think Jason could have went about this another way, or do you think his actions were justified? Let me know in the comments. And remember, we got to succeed, not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Yeah, man, it's a terrible story. Rest in peace to Quran. I definitely send my prayers to his family. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. It's another episode of Hood Tales. It's your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.